You ever look at a modern car and just wonder, how in the world do they make those huge, complicated metal parts that form its entire skeleton? Well, it's this incredible journey, right? From glowing molten metal to these massive, super precise structures that are lighter and stronger than anything we've seen before. So let's get into it and explore the manufacturing revolution that's making all of this possible.
I mean, it sounds kind of impossible, doesn't it? To take what used to be dozens or even hundreds of separate little pieces and somehow form them into one giant, flawless component. That's the big question we're going to tackle here. And the answer? Well, it lies in a perfect marriage between a true wonder material and an absolutely incredible high pressure process.
And that hero material? It's aluminum. But hold on, not just the stuff in your soda cans. We're talking about highly engineered aluminum alloys. This is the real foundation for creating parts that are somehow both unbelievably light and remarkably strong. So what even is an aluminum alloy? Honestly, the best way to think about it is like a recipe. You start with aluminum as your main ingredient, right? Then you add a pinch of this and a dash of that, other elements, to get the exact properties you're looking for. This is exactly why these alloys are so critical in industries from aerospace to automotive, where literally every single gram, every ounce of strength really counts. Now, these alloys are split into two main families. You've got wrought alloys, which actually make up most of the aluminum we use. Think rolled plates and foils. But for our story, we're focusing on the other family, the casting alloys. Their secret is a lower melting point, which makes them absolutely perfect for pouring into molds and creating those super intricate, complex shapes we need. And this is where that recipe really gets specific. You add some copper and boom, you get the kind of strength you need for an airplane. Silicon is a huge one because it helps the molten metal flow like water into every tiny nook and cranny of a complicated mold. Every single element has a specific job, fine-tuning everything from durability to ductility, that's a metal's ability to stretch without snapping, to perfectly tailor the final material for its high-performance mission. Okay, so we've got our perfect material. Now what? We need a process to shape it, and that process is called die casting. This is the technique that turns all that liquid potential into a solid, functional reality. To put it simply, die casting is kind of like an industrial-strength injection mold, but for metal. You take molten aluminum and force it under immense pressure into a super strong steel mold, which is called a die. This is what allows for unbelievable precision and the ability to crank out complex shapes with amazing consistency one after another. And the process itself is just incredibly fast and kind of elegant. Step 1. The molten metal is injected under extreme pressure. Step 2. It cools down and solidifies almost instantly inside that mold. And finally, Step 3. The mold pops open and the finished part is ejected. This whole cycle can happen in just a few minutes, making it absolutely perfect for high-volume production. So when you put it all together, die casting gives you this manufacturing trifecta. You get complex parts with a fantastic finish, and you can produce them at incredible speed. It's that winning combination that makes it so cost-effective and a total cornerstone of the modern automotive and electronics industries. But what happens when you take this already powerful process and you just scale it up? I mean, way up. Well, then you get a genuine manufacturing revolution. And it's called mega casting. Here's the core idea. Instead of welding and riveting and bonding dozens of small stamped metal pieces together to make something like a car's chassis, you make the entire thing in one single shot. It's a total game changer. We're talking about taking a car's rear underbody from 70 different parts down to just one. Mega casting uses these enormous die casting machines, some of them are literally the size of a small house, to do exactly that. By creating a huge part, like a car's entire underbody, in a single piece, you just eliminate countless steps on the assembly line. It dramatically simplifies manufacturing and, you guessed it, slashes costs. The real secret sauce here is high-pressure die casting, or HPDC. Now, sure, you can use a lower-pressure process, and you might get really high-quality parts. But it's slower. For mega casting, you need that insane pressure to force the metal into every single corner of a massive, complex mold in just a fraction of a second. That speed is what makes it possible to churn out these giant components for mass-market cars. Okay, but this brings up a huge question, a really critical one. If you're replacing dozens of parts with just one single piece, then the integrity of that one piece
is everything. How can anyone be absolutely sure it's perfect, with no hidden flaws that could lead to, a catastrophic failure?
Well, the answer lies in a super rigorous, multi-layered quality control process. You can think of these as the scientific guardrails that make sure every single megacasting is as strong, as safe, and as reliable as it absolutely has to be.
So, testing for quality really falls into two main camps. On one hand, you have non-destructive testing. This is basically like giving the part a CT scan to look for any internal flaws without hurting it at all. On the other hand, you've got destructive testing, which is, well, it's exactly what it sounds like. A part is sacrificed, tested until it breaks, to verify the absolute ultimate strength of the design.
And to see the unseen, manufacturers use some pretty amazing tech. Radiography is like a super powerful X-ray, looking for hidden voids or tiny cracks deep inside the metal. Ultrasonic testing sends sound waves pulsing through the part to create a map of its internal structure, just to make sure it's perfectly solid. And then there's eddy current testing, which can spot tiny surface flaws that are completely invisible to the naked eye. But those high-tech scans, that's just one piece of the puzzle. Every single part also goes through this intense physical inspection. We're talking meticulous visual checks for any little surface imperfection, and incredibly precise measurements with lasers to make sure every angle, every curve is exactly to spec, sometimes down to 1/100th of a millimeter. And finally, to make sure this level of quality is consistent, not just from one part to the next, but across different factories and all around the world, manufacturers rely on a set of global standards. This is the common language that builds trust. So these standards create a kind of global language for quality. It might start with national standards like Germany's DIN, which then get harmonized into regional ones like the European EN. But the big one, the one that overrides everything, is the ISO International Standard. It creates a global framework that guarantees a part made in one country meets the exact same quality and safety rules as one made anywhere else in the world. Ultimately, complying with a system like ISO 9001 is what ties this all together. And listen, it's not just some certificate you hang on the wall. It's a deep commitment to a rigorous, documented, and repeatable process for quality. It is the ultimate seal of approval that builds that essential trust between the company and, well, us. So, there you have it. From a carefully crafted aluminum alloy through the high-pressure fury of a die casting machine, and then verified by layers upon layers of high-tech quality control, we've really seen a true manufacturing revolution unfold. And it's one built entirely on a foundation of precision and trust. But as we celebrate this incredible leap in efficiency, we have to ask one last question. While megacasting definitely reduces waste during assembly, producing aluminum itself is incredibly energy intensive. So as this amazing technology scales up across the globe, what's its true environmental price? And can recycling ever really keep pace? That's something for all of us to think about.